So I think the first thing, just in terms of structure, OWASP is actually quite a very, very flat architecture. So basically the way it works is there's the OWASP board, which is basically me, Jeff, Dave, not here. Tom is about to join the OWASP board. And basically Andrew and Sebastian is also going to join the OWASP board. It's very undemocratic because we just appointed Tom. And one of the jobs for Tom is to sort this out so the next generation of OWASP board members is actually probably elected by the Owasp5067. Exactly. So what I like to do is I would like everybody just to go around and just tell who they are and what chapter they are leading or they could be leading or they're representing. And then we basically can start with the agenda. So I'm Dinis Cruz, I'm the Chief OWASP Evangelist. With my arms for OWASP. And try to get the whole thing energized. I also manage the .NET project, which is basically jumping down on my research. Anybody wants to do the next .NET project, please lead it. And I organize things like this, and I'm a new publisher, so I've written 10 books in the last 5 days. Fastest publisher. So, off you.
I'm Roman Husted from the Sacramento chapter. I'm filling in for our sort of leader. We don't really have a leader right now. One guy stepped up, but he wasn't able to make it. That chapter being revived right now. So.
Cool. Dan Cornell, the San Antonio chapter.
Jeff Williams, I used to run the DC chapter, but it was just too much, so I quit. And now it's been a couple of years since then, but
Peter Sullivan from the Chicago chapter. Our chapter leads are Jason Lee and Corey Scott from LaSalle. They're not here, so I thought it was.
Hello, sorry, I thought that they had to speak to the chapter, but I don't think I will work with Mexico, so kind of passing on information to my chapter.
I'm Wolfer Shazab, I lead the Israeli chapter, and I also joined recently the Owasp project.
I'm Tom Brennan. I founded the New Jersey chapter in 2004. We merged with the New York City chapter to make one chapter in 2007. And I've recently accepted the appointment to the board for OWASP Foundation, which is a great honor.
If you go to Vegas and Tom's there, just take you with a pinch of salt. It's OWASP extracurricular activities. Not sponsored by the OWASP board.
stays in Vegas.
Yeah, we're going to Vegas.
I'm David Campbell. I was introduced to the organization by Dinis and Dan and a couple other guys in London who had a very active chapter. I'm now in Denver, Colorado, where our leaders there have not completed a meeting in about 5 months. However, the last meeting I did attend that was very high quality, so I'm hoping to come back from here and get that chapter revived.
Hi, I'm Bob Sullivan from Minneapolis St. Paul chapter. I've been the chapter lead for 2 years, and I'm in the process of passing that on to hopefully somebody younger and with a lot more energy. I work at United Health Group, which is really pretty large, and I've been involved in a really small way on WebGo.
My name is Brian Bertesini. I'm the San Jose chapter leader. I'm the person that organizes wonderful weather for conferences. Was actually involved in SSA and ISACA and felt that something was missing. And in 2004, I started up the San Jose chapter. I had a lot of excellent support here and looking at merging the bigger groups to create a mega chapter similar to what we're doing in New York.
Garrett G. Wilkins, not the East State chapter. Wayne Long, I'm going to the Talent chapter. Recently, we had a Asia conference with 650 seat locations.
Jeremiah Grossman, WASP officer, board member.
Very good speaker at several OWASP conferences.
I've been through probably a dozen chapters here.
Sure, very helpful locally as well.
It's great, he's always get a press release.
Robert Hansen, Snake. I bounced around to many different chapters. Currently, I'm located in Austin. No Austin, San Antonio.
Cool. So my agenda for this, right, is we have a pile of sort of new ideas and decisions that we're sort of taking, and we want you guys on board and your opinions and what you think about it. And then at the end, we should just have a bit quick words about what's wrong and what we should do to make it better and how it works. So, all right. So basically, the first thing we have, and let's sort of take it in steps. So you guys know that we have kind of OWASP memberships, right? We've got only 4 or 5 types of OWASP memberships. We've got the $100 one, we have small companies about $2,000, and we have medium from $3,000 to $5,000, and the big one from $6,000 to $9,000. Now, what's been great is that because we got conferences like this, and they actually generate quite good income for OWASP companies, we actually are able to just about now allocate 100% of that money to projects, and that's quite important because we're not here, right? You know what I mean? We actually give them a chance. Hey, which project we're going to sponsor? And I think that's very important. One thing we don't have yet, and this is where I want to piggyback your brains on, is what we still don't have is a very good definition of what is an OWASP membership pack, right? What happens? You join in, why should you join, and what you get when you get to join in. So there's a couple of things that we're making a change. The first one is we're going to require every single project leader and project and chapter leader to become an OWASP member. Now, the thing is that we will give you an option to pay the $100 a month. It's very simple, right? You can pay or don't pay. There's no pressures asking you to say no. I think what will happen is most people in the US and UK are going to pay no problems, right? But that's like 10 coffees in Starbucks, whatever. Or if you're in the UK, that's like 1 cappuccino and 1 chocolate, right? And but probably a lot of people will not do it. But what we will do, right? Because now, finally, we actually got some kind of pack, right? What we will do is for every member that joins in, right? Basically, there will be 2 elements to it. So let's say that you guys have 5 members, right? That join in from the local chapter. What will happen is we will grab $70 out of the 100 of that money, and at cost, send free packets to those persons. There will be one which will probably be something like this, right? So it will probably be probably 3 books. Probably some of them will be compilations, so we probably put a couple in one. Will be a shirt and a sweatshirt and a DVD. So that will be like your welcome. It's actually a very good idea with little cards, like OWASP member. So that depends if you have the brain and the energy to do it. Anybody push? Right? So this will be like the member pack, right? So we'll send this on the post for them to join as a member. And so the idea is that we have about $50 or $40 to spend on this, and then we probably will issue these a year with the procedures of the conferences. Right? And the CDs will basically be like this one, like me and Dinis did in London. Actually, this was locally, though. We burned all the others in London. And we'll have the proceedings, we'll have the offline copy of the website, and we'll have all the tools in one more place. You can download it, everything is there. So what happens with the other 30 bucks is basically we're having this concept now of OWASP points. So what we can do is you, the chapter leaders, can decide what to do with OWASP points. With the small caveat, there's only 2 places where you guys can spend the money. So you can choose any color as long as it's white or black, right? So, but this is a lot of it for logistical reasons. Because OWASP chapters cross around the world, and it becomes really messy really quickly, the whole legality stuff. So the first question we had is, hey, can you guys pay for the venue? Right? But that means that you have a US company with a charity paying for a venue somewhere in Turkey, right? And something goes wrong, it gets messy really quickly. And the logic is, if you're chapter leader, you can't get yourself organized to get a venue, then maybe you get somebody else. Because we all actually work at big companies, even locally. So that actually hasn't been a problem so far. So the idea is that those 30 OWASP points that you guys get, right? You could spend on lulu.com, right? Buying books. Or you can spend on our program, which is OWASP on the Move, which basically is money that is available to spend speakers around the country or around the world. So what we've done now in Europe is very successful, so that's one of the things I want to make sure you guys are aware, that we have marked about $30,000 for the next 6 months for probably up to $500 a piece, right, for sponsorships for OWASP leaders to go somewhere else. So actually, I have no problems if you get a bit of that. Because basically, what we're saying is that we want to promote, and for the chapters who maybe find it a bit harder, right? They can say, hey, I would like Jeremiah, I would like Robert, I would like, anybody, all the guys to come over, and at least you have all the travel costs covered, and there was basically the guy doesn't have to pay to go there.
Dennis, question for you, just as an example. So Robert came up from Texas to
Yep.
the meeting we just had in New Jersey.
Yep.
So in that scenario, he would just simply file or submit an expense report
Yep.
or however that would
Yeah.
work.
The way it works is Sebastian is the project leader for, actually he's controllers on the guy on OWASP on the move. And what Sebastian does is twice a month to Dev. So you guys coordinate with him, you get invoices to him, and it's Sebastian's job twice a month send, for Jeff and Dave to pass the check. And usually it's either PayPal or check payment done.
There's one step in.
Yep.
Before that, you have to get authorization to do that before you fly.
Oh no, of course, yeah. Absolutely.
You
The
don't
other,
just check in with this and then with
the other thing I was doing on
Who's got the Hawaii chapter?
exactly. The other thing, well, actually, I've been already to, and me and Petrov went to Belgium, and because F5, right, on the sort of sponsorship package of the local chapter, sponsor 1,000 euros. So that actually allowed more than a couple of guys to go, right? And that's no problem, as long as the sponsorship is within the rule of OWASP, right? And we have quite a lot of sponsorships going on, right? As long as it's distant and it's not in your face, then yeah, so the guy from town probably will have to chip in a bit more, right? If you want to bring some more people over. But the whole idea is to promote cross-fertilization of speakers, of people, of ideas. And it's really good for the community when you have somebody going somewhere else, meeting the people, and it really actually bonds well together. So the OWASP move has two elements. One of them is, yes, if you want to go, you can speak. The other thing you can do is you can go to the page and it says, I'm available. So, you guys can say, I'm available to go within the US, with the reasonability, I can go, I can speak. So maybe another chapter leader can go, hey, I can get, that guy, and I can get that, and I can get somebody else, and then that sort of facilitates. So at the moment, the idea is that in addition to those $500 or whatever, you guys can spend locally $30 for every new member on, at the moment, because it's the beta system up and running, on either books, the sort of CD stuff, or the OWASP move. Does that make sense? Any guys comment on that?
It will be outlined clearly in the wiki as to terms. I haven't seen that myself. So.
Yeah, that's going to be your responsibility.
That's your responsibility.
So then, if we use that, let's say for example, we do a future meeting here in evening.
Yep.
They don't charge us for the facility. However, if we want to use the catering department here for beverages and food, we could use those funds for.
I'm inclined to say no, because it gets messy. Because the problem is that, on a local case, maybe you might not be that straightforward, but if you think that we have to plan for the whole OWASP, it becomes quite messy. I think the logic is that, okay, you might have eBay sponsoring the venue, then get another company to sponsor the drinks, right? And instead, they get the sponsors, they get the goodwill kind of thingy,
So the thrust is to stay within the club and not outside the club.
Sorry?
The thrust is to stay within the club and not outside the club. How you spend your money.
Yeah, well, the idea is that we have to spend money on things that can be done centrally, because the problem here is that we cannot have a system, or at least the OWASP doesn't have a financial system mature enough that you can have the local guys passing the check, because we will lose control so easily. And it does not definitely say that that's the model that should work for every single case, but the problem is how do you scale worldwide with that model? So the advantage of the OWASP point is that it's pretty straightforward. There's only one entity making the payments. In some ways, what we want is like a shopping cart, right? The idea at the time was maybe we should get Google, right, to host the website that people could spend the points. And then, yes, then you can have a lot of things in there.
So we may add stuff.
Yeah.
What you can spend your OWASP points on. We're starting with small, make sure it works, and then if we can figure out ways to offer other services, that way we can trade.
So another question I have for you, our chapter is somewhat established. We've been around for almost 3 years now. And I've kind of taken on myself to do that. I've gotten a lot of help from folks here, but how do we kind of migrate from being kind of my will to having a more formal governing body?
Well, you talk to Tom, because they in New York are the kings of that stuff, right? They have a New York chapter.
So very quickly, we have nine board members, very diversified. Some folks are industry folks, some people are on the service provider side, so they understand both sides of the component. Half the board is up for election every year. We're actually in the middle of election right now, which will be kind of announced on Monday for the people that are running for the new board. It's actually 12 of them running for 4 seats. little chapters, so we have fun.
So it's important to realize that different chapters are quite different in their character, right? Some are, like the DC chapter is quite small and just AppSec people, really. It's very researchy oriented, want to take on projects and do certain things. New York chapter is much more for, interested companies that are interested in application security. And others are sort of more educational in their there's different models. So, not every chapter is going to have a 9-person board.
Yeah.
Right? There may be some that are much smaller, but we want to put a model out there that then you can tailor for your local chapter.
It also grows. I mean, we started off with an exploit roundtable of 5 people, and now we have 500-something people in the membership. So it depends on just, it's a natural, I mean, we have 18.2 million people in the New York metropolitan area, so we have a good membership. It's a lot different than being out in Nebraska, I would think. I've never been there. It's kind of difficult, I think, to have a number, and numbers don't equal quality of content in any way.
But one of the things
Excuse me, the Nebraska, Omaha area, I know of some experts in penetration stuff there. Talk to me offline. They're world class, they're just sort of secretive.
So one of the things that we also need to do a better job at OWASP is actually share the knowledge that exists. So like there, right? You actually have the 2 guys who probably run the biggest chapters that we have. Like the Israeli guys. That's why we were saying, you might as well make it a conference, because every time these guys have a meeting, it's like big, 150 people turning up, right? They charge for a whole day track. In fact, the whole idea of the OWASP Day and Meet comes from the Israelis. Hey, we just should expand this and artificially get people to do one-day conferences around the world, right? But what we need to do is share that knowledge, right? So that you can say, this is what I did, this is what the problem I had, this is how I organize it.
So actually, we have a good tool for that. It's called Wiki.
Yeah.
I'm as guilty as anyone, but remember that Wiki is open. Sebastian is running the chapters project. There's a page there, and actually, I remember you sending an email about let's join the LinkedIn group.
Yes.
It should be there. It should be in the.
I'll have to edit the wiki and edit it.
That's right. And so should I. It means that I learned. Everyone.
And the caveat for you guys is that we now are going to start to put on books and stuff to put there. So actually it goes beyond that. See, what I realized here, right, is I created this book, right? This contains 3 things. It contains all information about OWASP, right? All information, every single information about the projects, the tools project, and the documentation project. Now this is actually quite an easy read, right? I actually read it on the printed out version and had it on the plane, but it's actually quite easy to read and digest, right? And you can probably read in half an hour. But the problem I found was that the wiki is not the best medium to read information like this. It's too distractive, you can click on things, you very quickly lose reference, and you also cannot, you always need somebody who knows what you want to read to package it in sequence. So if you actually, for example, you know what made me realize this was, I had several guys emailing me up to send that thing, what do you want OWASP to be? Because I put in some links there, if you remember, for the new blah, blah, blah. I have a lot of guys coming to me and saying, hey, that's good. Where was that when I joined in, right? And I realized that there's a lot of information, right? For the grab here you go, about the OWASP, right? How it works, contributions, OWASP projects, you got chapters, and then you got the whole thing about, chapter rules, chapter leaders handbook, right? The education presentation stuff. And then you've got the memberships, and you've got how everything works. Now, this should be like mandatory reading, right? For everybody that joins OWASP. Because this is actually how it works.
I think it's ironic that we're open web application print books. But I agree, it's a good read. It's also good to hand those things out as viral market. Yeah,
but the thing about the book is that the book is and this is dynamic, right? We have to really go into this is viral. Like people should distribute this. This is like for everybody to share. But the thing about the books is that allows you to put in one place the information in a sequence that makes sense and to be packaged. Because the wiki is great to edit. It's not great to digest and to learn stuff.
It seems a lot of trees.
We need to have
In spite of Bill Gates, we are still a paper society.
I know, but sponsor forest. We have an OWASP forest.
The point is that what you need is more editing of the wiki in the sense of put a page with the table of contents of that somewhere, so somebody can start somewhere and go through it. It's not as easy as reading a book, but it's still editing, which is important.
The wiki's always going to be the most up-to-date,
Exactly.
right? These books are intended to get people infected, and once they get it, instead of putting the book on the shelf, they can hand it off to somebody and go, oh, I got
PDF version online?
Yes, free.
Everything you got here you can download from the web. The problem is that I only realized what class was once I grabbed the class book, and I need to find the guy who made the book. Right? But it's like this, like, look, you got the code you got, right? Now, if you have this, it's so much easier to get it reviewed than the way it's on a weekly one.
Yeah, we're all print when we want to review things anyway.
So I think we're going that way, and this is the thing you guys have to realize that the first one we print came out in Chinese, right? So we got very excited about this. We got the website, the content messages, everything was great. I printed one, sent these guys off to him, and then Larry came to me and said, "Man, the camera looks really good, but I think there's a problem with the content." And it was like, "But Chinese, right?" Encrypted. No, there's only 4 copies of those around the world, right? So like really, really precious. So I would play a big gamble because I wanted to have this for the conference because I think now we can look to the next generation and really understand that this is actually a great way to distribute our information. But it was a massive experiment. I grabbed every book and I was like this, oh yes, English. Yeah. And then I get, you looking at the book and too much white space, man. This is not well formatted. Man, I'm lucky this thing is in English, man.
It's the only book that didn't disappear this morning.
Yeah, and that was the only book that was gone, Exactly. No, but we need to have if you guys are English, you understand this joke. There's this thing called Innocent. They're like smoothie drinks, and they now have this thing that says buy one, get one free, right? And actually you go online and you sponsor a tree planted. So I think we need to do something for OWASP. Right? And maybe we should. Alright, so let's continue the thing. So the free member, the $100 membership, right? Those guys are going to get probably that. And then a couple more releases throughout the year, and then the $30 goes to the OWASP, the local chapter. So actually, in principle, OWASP should not be making any money directly with that. I don't think that's going to be a problem because actually, if people pay the membership, then it's all costed, so that should be not an issue.
This is 2 bucks on the membership. So as we all start with like a local membership drive to try and get folks to sign up. First off, 2 bucks is is it retro to the existing membership that's already been driven to become members? And secondly,
well, yeah, because you're going to send this to everybody.
So everybody,
every current member will already receive all this.
So all those points, if you will, go back to that chapter
Yeah.
as well.
Oh,
We never thought about the points. We thought about the
that's
past.
an interesting question.
It should be retro, right? Because I think not issue. The other component is when new members are driven to sign up. I forgot I signed up. I don't remember. I'm assuming it says affiliation with the chapter.
I think so.
Yeah, when you sign up, you can choose what chapter you're affiliated with, so that way we know who gets the points, right? And that's a tracking nightmare. We're going to figure out a system. We're still working on it.
It is used for local corporate membership.
Okay, that's the next one. Okay, so this is basically for the guys who pay from $100 to about $2,000, right? Then we have the companies who fall into the middle bracket. So for them, what we want to do, right, is to basically send them every single book we have, right? Probably 2 copies each, which basically will be a bulk one. Probably 1 or 2 sweatshirts, USB stick, and probably UPs. So, again, the thing is like, the guy spends this, the guy spends money, he got the director to approve it, we want the guy to receive something, and then he can immediately start to distribute stuff locally. So for those guys, what they will get, they'll get the pack, and they will get 1 free conference attendee and training session. So basically what we're saying is that, hey, you become a member, join OWASP members, and you can actually come to one of our conferences, and you can attend one of our courses for free.
So in this example, to me, that'll be a $600 value in this course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For $2,000.
For $3,000 to $5,000.
But it doesn't really cost us.
It doesn't cost them
$600, right? Conference attendance is,
Exactly. So
it's
for
not-
one, it has no
it's
cost.
a good trade-off.
For them, but you can say that the value that they get is already about $1,500.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's at face value. And actually, what I'll probably do is I'll put also these packs for sale. So if you want to buy, 20 of these or 5 of these, more, that's fine. We should be able to just figure out the cost and sell them as a unit. So you can buy more if you want, right? But we include those as one of each, as each pack.
Dennis, I might have missed it, but what happens when a company approaches us and they want to do a corporate membership, just in front of the Jeff in the past?
Yeah, well, I'll get at that in just a second. So what you got is you got the $100 guys, you got these guys who are from 2 to 5, and then the guys who go back from 5 to 9. So the only difference is that the guys from 5 to 9 get 2 conference attendees and 2 training for now. In principle, the pack is the same. So the budget for the pack is about $200, roughly. We need to figure out the final value, but roughly we got $200 that we can spend from the shirts, from the shipping, which is going to be a bit more because it's a pack. Probably we need some OWASP brand and envelope, whatever. We need to figure that out. So that's the model. So now we go to the membership. For the guys who are above the 2,000, for the corporate membership, which is 3,000 up, the rule of engagement is this, and this is probably the biggest selling point that you guys have driving the membership, is we want those members to say where they want their money to be spent. And the idea now is we're going to add this variation, is they can allocate part of that money to go into OWASP points. So you have somebody local who wants to join, you can say, hey, when you sign up, and this is not illegal, right, because they're not that many people, right? We will contact them and say, hey, thank you for coming up, blah, 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 where do you want your money to go? And the options are, OWASP chapter, a project, and a working group, which is the next step we'll have next.
So we have like a 70-30 split to start off with.
I don't know, we could recommend, but I think the chapter should choose. I think, the company should choose, not chapter. Because also the moment can become quite ridiculous, right? Because you have $9,000 to spend, right, on books, right? and remember that we're selling it as a cost, right? So this costs $7, sorry, this costs $5 each, right? These guys cost about, this costs 14 if you buy one unit. We bought 300, so it costs $10 each. So that's a lot of books if you want to spend $9,000, right?
I also think that companies prefer to sponsor projects.
Yeah.
Because there's value to it. That's what I gave my money to.
I think there's a lot of kudos now. I think there's a lot of kudos of, you arrive at the local chapter meeting and there's like, everybody takes 3 books with them and it was sponsored by the local telecoms company or the local whatever company, right? I think that will work.
You can have it printed on the books that they were sponsored by. Yeah.
Well, it's just standard. But it's still viral, right?
It's working.
Anybody have an issue with that model?
Just the only question is, it almost sounds like a fellowship, and there's almost a potential, would the company ever say, I'd like it assigned to this guy who actually works at the company too? Or, if they're...
Well, I don't have any problem of, aspect, right? Something around and say, well, not aspect, because they're one of the few ones who actually deserve a free membership. But let's say, IBM, right? And IBM decided that they're really interested in, the Scholastic application project, and they want to, and they even allocate one of their guys, right, to work on it. I don't have any problem IBM saying, I want to sponsor that project, and that guy happens to be our project leader, and the money goes to that project. Hey, the thing is, it has to go to OWASP project, and the money has to be used as OWASP project.
According to the rules of OWASP project.
According to the rules of OWASP project, right? And the way the money is allocated, this is very important, that money gets allocated through in most cases, through either our spring of code or winter of code initiatives, or through a public announcement. So there's no, this has to be like, here's the money, anybody wants to do it, oh, that guy wants to do it, this is the proposal. So it's always open to somebody else turning around and hey, I want to do that. And to be honest, we rely a lot on the chapter leaders. But if somebody complains and says, hey, I submitted this proposal, right, and that guy got the job, and I think my proposal is much bigger, I think that's where I think the OWASP board or the leaders in general will probably take a note on that. And then if clearly there was a massive bias for a guy that didn't deserve to do that project, then clearly that's probably something we need to address.
Well, it's all out in the open, right? I mean, all the criteria for the awards are out in the open, all the ratings are out in the open, and I doubt there will be a problem.
So do you guys have any problem with that? Because that's the criteria change for us. It solves a lot of problems that we have. Any comments? No?
Definitely a place to start.
Cool. All right. Now the great news, right? We have about $150,000 to spend. Pretty cool. Right? So the current allocation that we're playing with is we have about $30,000 for OWASP remove, and that's actually a lot of it's coming from the sponsorship of our website. So the website gets $4,000 a month. There's actually a couple of spots free, so if you guys want to know anybody who wants it, okay. But that basically that comes from that one. We got 20K earmarked for giving back everybody this tax because we already paid. So and by the way, one of the things that Dave's going to show tomorrow is our turnover up until now this year is $290,000. Right? Oh no, it was $100,000, which the total amount was $290,000, which includes $90,000 earmarked for string of code. Roughly about that. we say we have 150 at least we can play with it, leaving us a little bit of a margin, and leaving the first cities with discount conferences and whatever comes next. So what I want is basically what you need is you got 30K for OWASP on the move, 20K for the membership tax, and we have about 100K for the winter of code, right, which is the next generation of this. 10K of that, or at least 5, will already be earmarked for Paul Peter, which is the guy who's basically been managing the Spring of Code, which is a massive, great job, and he's going to be managing this. And we're adding up, in some ways what we're probably doing is we're adding up one extra project in it, which is to also fix up all the OWASP projects. So Paul is going to, in the next 6 months, he's going to manage the winter of code, and he's going to sort out all the OWASP projects. So we have about 90,000, and this is without any new money coming in from new companies. Because basically what we'll probably do we did last time is throughout this period, between maybe now and January, every company that they're joining will basically publicly add it to this fund. So we could say, yeah, hey, we have 150,000 of sponsorships, and it's 100K from OWASP, and it's 50,000 that came from all these different companies, which gives them a nice kudos and good feedback, and it worked great. So the question is, where are we going to spend this money, right? So if you have any ideas, this is the time now to bring them out. A lot of the thought is basically spend money on projects that fix up OWASP, basically content, promote its quality, and basically cross-fertilize.
What's that?
So to be clear, he's talking about the Winter of Code project.
Yeah, Winter of Code.
The idea here is instead of having an open solicitation this year for any projects that people want to get sponsored, which is how we did it in the past, this year we'd really like to indicate what we want, sort of put out an RFP for projects in various areas. So we need a list of, 20 or 30 great project ideas that are in the, 5, 10, 20K range that we can then fund if we get an appropriate proposal. So what we're trying to build now is a list of those RFP items that are strategic for OWASP, right? So, we've started putting together a list. I think we as a set of OWASP leaders need to come up with this list of things that we truly believe will drive the OWASP cause forward.
So the cool thing is that we actually have the budget, right? So it's not like, so we actually strategically put that budget. And what we've seen with the Spring of Code, it does actually work really well. I think there's some remarkable successes on the Spring of Code. Because what happens, out of the 26 projects that we sponsor, we actually sponsor every single one of them because we sort of fit within the budget. We had 5 who dropped, which is cool. People, I don't think I can do that, or it would be too complicated, my life doesn't work. So we didn't pay anything, right? And we had 15 very strong deliverables, including guys like the guy who did the Blueberry on Rails security, which is like completely left field, and it was probably one of the guys who would have dropped. So it's actually interesting that we did that model. And we have things like the education project, which now you guys have all these slides you guys can use for training. We've got the guy who did like the OWASP project. There's some really cool stuff here. And I think it's quite interesting to have a read on this stuff.
So there'll definitely still be a slot for open proposals, right? Anybody wants to do some new project and we look at it and we all decide, hey, that's really cool, we're going to fund that, great. But I really think we need to try to steer people towards projects that are strategic for what we're trying to do.
Yep.
Well, Dennis, you mentioned that, the Ruby on Rails top 10. If we had a top 10 for some of the other leading technologies.
I'd love to have that.
I mean, there's
The
probably
job
a lot
is
of
in
overlap.
progress, by the way.
But I mean, like, you mumbled some of the new Microsoft stuff, like the Silverlight and other stuff
We need
that's
that.
coming up.
And actually,
If we could put that out there now.
Let's get ahead of the curve.
I agree. And actually, what I want, and this is why I think the work groups we're talking next is going to be very important, is I want those guys to tell us, right? Because they already know the problems. So the Air and Silverlight and the .NET Framework 3.0 and the Java 5 and the Java NX, all these new platforms, those guys should be authoring these documents with us, right? Because they should be telling us, these are the things you need to worry about. Because, hey, I had a new version.
Wireless, even Microsoft said, now that's going to be a version 2, so they're not even ready to put the security features into it.
Oh yeah, I know.
But if we kind of declare, hey, we're going to do a project, we think this is really important, Microsoft's going to stand up and say, oh gee, we haven't even really released it yet, but these guys are going to...
I think it's a great idea. I think you can make the OWASP top 10 for the reach browser application.
Right? Well, I think actually, what we really need is a framework for evaluating those kinds of technologies. Because they're all different. I mean, I've looked into them enough to know that they're very wide across the various kinds of security questions you might ask about. So, again, I think that ought to be one of the things that we put on the list, and let's build up a great list.
I think we don't want to spread ourselves too thin though. Like one of the things that's really impressing this year, I'm doing a lot of PCI work.
the good news is that now, for example, we have the OWASP we're on Rails. We said this is the standard, right? This is how it should be done, right? And a lot of these things, again, is dynamic, right? So again, people can go and do stuff. I think what we have is some resources to give it an extra hump.
Just a question.
9 minutes and water.
So,
Question.
Close in an hour.
I'm just just trying to the money topic here. What's our operating cost? What's our administrative back-end cost to keep this organization running? What was our 2006 operating cost? What was our 2007 projected?
how much?
35.
And we're going to be adding a full-time employee this year?
Oh yeah, by the way, we forgot to say that, yeah.
So
Well, I'm
that's
gonna
all
do
part
that
of
to close
administrative.
tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah,
So wouldn't that be where maybe it's part of that accounting statement?
So one of the things that we're doing now is, and we worked with them for a long time, but only now I think we actually have all this to the public, is these guys did a great job and actually managed to hire the first OWASP full-time employee. And he's an admin person, costs 42K a year, right? And it's basically our first, somebody who's,
Salary.
yeah, who's actually going to be responsible for controlling all the money, issuing regular reports, doing all the maintenance, everything. Now have somebody that actually has time, right? And doesn't have to take out from their own personal time.
Is their office space going to come out of
Yeah.
OWASP or is it?
Well, yeah, it's coming out of aspects, and OWASP will become
OWASP
to
will
it.
pay for it.
Yeah.
We'll figure out.
Okay.
So we're going to come up with more women involved.
Sure, OWASP women project.
First thing you want to
All right, guys. Now the next one is the tricky one. Okay, you guys remember I sent that email about all the addresses and all that stuff, right? About everybody, and so basically we only actually got about 100 or 90 responses, right? And we're supposed to have 197 projects.
They're not going to get their packs.
All right. So basically, there's a couple of things now. This is very important to discuss, right? The first one is we want to introduce requirements for leadership, right? The first one is we want to have identity verified because think about it, right? There's actually you have status associated with OWASP, so it doesn't mean that the guy needs to publicly say who he is, but I think we need to have a web of trust. So we need one OWASP leader to say, I've met the guy exists, right? And he's called James Bucky, right? Or he's called Subaru, right? Whatever the guy wants to call himself. But I think we need to introduce some level of identity. We need to have the address and contact details of that person, obviously. We probably, and this is again one of Tom's new stuff, we're going to create an OWASP code of conduct and values, which basically what we got already there, but just, a bit like making it a bit more formal. And they're going to have to agree to that. And they're going to have to have a commitment and action plan for the next 12 months, and they have to become OWASP leaders. So that's basically the process of, when you're a leader, this is our model.
The one thing is that to have a plan for 12 months when you start.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
That's hard.
Okay, that's the guy saying, I want to do
I
this.
can probably do this, but you'll start with
Some level of commitment, it's some effort on our part to take on a new leader and spin him up and get him started.
No, but assuming someone knows the guy,
Yeah.
and he says I want to start a chapter somewhere.
We're
You
going to
do
sue them
some
if they
time.
bail out after 6 months. I just want a verbal commitment that at that point in time, they're ready to go for a year. Like their intent is to go for a year.
But actually, the chapter is easy one, because the chapter is going to be, I'm going to try to start a chapter. Hey, this is more like for projects.
And the first part of that would be like, great, so if you want to start a chapter in Pakistan or whatever it may be, who are the other 2 or 3 people that are going to do this?
By the way, how comes we don't have project leaders here?
I don't know. Well, they should be here. I don't know.
They went to the bar.
No, because
I don't know, Rogan, actually it's Rogan.
Rogan is here.
It's not a big project either, I think he's the only one.
Arshan's got his, Eric's got his,
Yeah.
there's 3 of us.
So, okay, so one of the ideas that I think we need to talk about still, right, is this is something I was pushing, but I think finally everything clicked, right, during this week, is we're going to start a new thing called OWASP working groups, right, and the idea is to create projects, it's a variation of a project, but it's basically something which is interesting or is focusing on a particular problem. And in some ways, and this is one of the problems I see with OWASP at the moment, is OWASP is still very overpopulated with vendors. I think the vendors actually behave really nicely, which I think is remarkable, right, that we actually achieve something that the vendors actually behave, and it's not like the marketing fest all over the shop. But I think what we need at OWASP is we need the organizations who have the problem to actually drive the agenda. Is the companies who say, the guys with the asses on the line, right? Like, they are the ones who have to drive the agenda. Not the vendors who have always, regarding how benign they are, they always have their own interests at heart. We need the guys who actually, are having problems. And I think the vendors will love that, because basically it's a better explanation what the problem is, right? So I think there's a lot of synergies here in terms of how that can work. So the idea here is to create working groups that will basically have specific agendas, who in a lot of ways are basically transverse a lot of OWASP projects. So the ones we got here are, and these are all the ones who already have leaders assigned to, right? Is browser security, which is going to be Robert, Jeremiah, and PDB, right?
Very excited for this.
Oh, okay, so Jeremiah potentially will be there, right? I think those three guys should be, because I think they are probably the three most advanced guys in browser breakers, right? And so that's one. There's industry sectors, which Tom Bremer will join in, and that's one where about the financial sector, like what's the stuff of OWASP for a financial sector, or telecoms, or pharmaceutical, whatever the sector that particularly is.
If you're going to be breaking up like that, you ought to be working with InfraGard and ISEX.
That's definitely part of the plan.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that, right?
Critical infrastructure focus, absolutely.
Yeah. So then we're going to have access control, which is Zano. I generally agree that it's called access control to the Zano, right? And that's going to be this, and that's an interesting approach, because what Gary was saying, right? Saying, here we have this access control specification, here's the vendors, but the vendors are all implementing 70%. Like, his example was, take Microsoft, Oracle, right? They all have the bit that gets to their world really well implemented. The stuff to get out of their world is not really that mature, right? So you almost want a body to say, this is the whole world, from beginning to end, and which bit do you implement properly, right? So that's an interesting one. We have education, which is some ways we're lifting from a current project, because that's actually quite, transversal. We have mobile security, which
Who's assigned to
Sebastian.
special for education?
Yeah.
So he'll work also at universities
Yeah.
and colleges.
Yeah. So that's the plan. We got mobile security that we already have going, and actually I've been after you all day. It's the first time I see you here, right? Because I think you should be involved, because I think mobile security should have basically the Nokias and the Ericssons and all those guys involved.
Or somebody else from
Sure. But this is,
I mean, I just moved from IT to mobile,
yeah.
so I'm not the foremost expert in the area.
Sure. But the idea is that if you think about it, Nokia wants to talk to OWASP, right? They says, look, I'm worried about, web mobile security. I can feel the wave. I can see it coming, right? I want to do something about it. But I still have about 6 months or a year or 2 years. Who do they talk to? They talk 10, the leaders, and then they go, right? So this is a great way to have some focus, right? So the other one we got is preventive security, which is you might name for sandboxing, right? So I'm going to leave that one. And then there's OWASP SDL, which is Coherent. And then there's OWASP governance, which is Storm. So if you take us into the browser security, I was already talking to the guys from Google, right? And basically what I want for that project is I want to have you guys in the middle saying this is what I would like to have. I want to have all the heavyweights of the web who their lives depend on a browser being secure, saying I buy that, and I want to publicly take that to the browsers and say, now let's start the conversation. I totally agree, but unless you got the backing of these guys, the browser is going to pay lip service. Yeah, and I think that's the thing that we can do, which probably is not going to take a lot of effort, but it's going to give you the leverage that you need. Because at the moment it's you talking, or it's PDB talking, or it's me complaining, whatever. It's not a body, right? And I think it's much easier for somebody, even at government level, saying, hey, I think that's, the next version of browser security, right? It's actually pretty fucking good document, and I think, and those guys goes to IE going, okay, so, right? And actually, I think you should play the game of asking questions, saying, so if this is not happening, how are we going to do this? But that's something I leave to you guys. So, any comments or problems or anything about that, or any more ideas of working groups that we can have?
Got governance for OWASP, but not government interface.
No, that's OWASP government.
Right, what I'm saying is in the United States, we've got NIST guidelines that basically agencies take word for word and go implement.
That would be a government focus.
I'm not volunteering for that piece.
Even a state government won't touch a federal guideline if they don't have to.
I actually agree with you, and I think we should say we want one, and I don't think that should be done by anybody but somebody from the government. That should be, those guys would say, hey, we want to build a bridge with our community, and we will lead that project. Because in some ways, what I like about the idea of these working groups is that you almost can then use, like, it's really like using the web as the API, right? You can almost is the working group should be setting the agenda. And I have no problem if OWASP suddenly become driven, and you know, I hope you guys agree, but that the working groups set the agenda. So the working groups go to the OWASP top 10 and say, hey, I need a new version that's focused on this. They go to Webstar and says, I need you to be able to cover this. They go to each of the individual OWASP projects, to the Java project, and say, I need this thing. And then, I think what will probably happen is easier, for example, for a company like Nokia or new members to put the money into the working groups than into specific projects. And we can have a model where it's the working group that actually then manage whatever pot they have, or tries to figure out which projects are the best ones to allocate that money. So this is a 2-day idea, right? That's suddenly everything like glued together, so it's bound to change. And I'm going to announce it tomorrow. But unless you guys have any major problems with it.
Let's go drink and talk about it.
Yeah. No, here. Anyway.
Yeah, at the end of about 5 beers, everybody will agree.
Okay, you guys have any more things you want to raise? I have one more issue at the end. You guys have any more things you guys want to raise? No?
Here's the rub.
No, actually, Mandy is here. Now, I want to raise an interesting question, right? Which actually he raised, right? And I think is an interesting side effect, which is, so about 3 years ago, right? We have a lot of people at OWASP, including, that basically say that, sensing suck, right? Including, right, other stuff, right? Now, and that's actually several places in OWASP website. We can actually Google for it, right? If you go to sensing problems, you actually find several places, right, on OWASP website. Now, this is actually
just search for that.
Huh?
I did a search for that.
What do you mean? Hey, well, probably anybody using the tool is going to do a search. But the question you raise is right. It's an interesting one. I'm not sure if there's an instant solution or it's something you just have to live with it. Is that the reality is that hopefully I haven't tested right. The new version is not as bad as the one that was 3-4 years ago, right? But what do we do with that past? Because there's always going to be stuff like that suddenly somebody.
It's going to be in the history, right? I mean, the wiki is forever, right? But I think the right way to deal with speech problems is with more speech, right? So we're going to have guidelines and ethics and something that people who participate in OWASP will presumably sign up to, and that makes a good criteria for how we look at things on the website. Maybe if somebody says something about a product, we just don't support that kind of talk. Take it off.
Yeah, that was how our presentations will mention that. But actually, I just realized what part of the solution is, right? Like you guys should be working with the Tools project, which is trying to make independent evaluation stuff.
Actually, I think the last project actually will help. That's
help putting
on the even playing field, and that's the inter-cooperation between groups.
And this actually takes me to the last sticky point, which we need to figure out a solution for, which is, and this is something that I have in one of the tools I wrote, because I wrote a report generator, which you guys should try, right? It's pretty cool, and it saves all the time. And one of the things I wanted to do was get an XML feed from the OWASP website, so when I got my appendixes, I got my first scripting, I got my stuff, and I can link it, and it's great. Now it's actually really well formatted. Actually, a year ago when I was doing it, it was much harder to pull it off. But that's been cleaned up, it's much better. But I can't, right, give a client a report with basic content that was dynamically loaded from a website that I hadn't had time to read and use, right? It's that simple, right? And in some ways, the model that I would like to see, and we need to figure out how this thing works, because there's a lot of implications, and see if you guys can help us figure this out. The model that I want to see is I want to go to the testing guide guys and says, I'm going to release a new version, right, on print, right? And you probably write we need to name and date all the versions, right? We're going to release a new version on the 30th of March, whatever, 2008. And what we will do also, we will create a static version, right, of that tool, of that guide on the website. Probably going to be even a wiki format. So we may actually have, maybe the solution have 2 weeks. Well, have a stable wiki, which is the mature one, right, which is the static one, right?
That's what I would copy. If you're going to use a tool that's going to go to a wiki or go to an open source component to get data to put in a report, great. Then the tool should have the ability to look locally where that you would set up your local repository of information and make sure it's good to go. Don't put the burden on the organization, if you will, as it pertains to keeping the data current. Take the burden on, copy paste into a local thing, and point your tool to where the data.
Yeah, but that's what I want. See, I don't mind that automatic download of that information, right? As event, she says, okay, I'm happy, and then create a final version. So actually, at that one time, you had the most up-to-date, peer-reviewed, right, in principle, low measuring accuracies version of this particular document. And actually, that's the one that should be referenced. Right? Including the top 10, right?
I'm really not too worried about it, actually. If the report generator grabs the stuff off the wiki, it's fine with me. If you're a consultant and you're delivering those results raw off the wiki, you know.
No, but that's
a report problem.
well, but the problem is bigger than that, because look at the OWASP 10, right? So, PCI recommends the OWASP 10, right? Somebody goes to our website, and meanwhile we're working on the next version.
PCI took the content out and said, that's the rules.
But whatever,
So
right?
we can't waggle it out.
No, sure, but whatever. But like the OWASP 10 is a good example, right? We should have the version that's for print, the version that is stable, right, should be separate from
Like a static snapshot.
I think, well, there's always the PDF version, which is, when we generate the top 10, there's the PDF version, which is, that's what I consider the official version of that document. We don't have that for we don't have that in a way that a tool can download it, but maybe when you make the PDF version, you also save off an XML version and you use that.
So maybe,
Or you have saved snapshots.
yeah. All right, so that actually makes sense. So we can have a compromise that in the short term, what we'll have a part of the OWASP website, which is the stable of all the tools. So that's, in some ways, it's another front end where you can have, and you can go there, and that only contains the release quality projects with the links to those stable versions, and with the ability to download that. So that's where I can go to get the latest OWASP top 10, the latest testing guide in PDF, Word, or XML format, right? The latest version of web scour, which we can review and all that stuff.
It sounds to me like 2 long pages in the wiki.
Yeah, these are project-related issues that are capable of discussing and testing.
Well, I think the release page probably makes sense. Because I was not happy, again, I was suggesting, but I was not happy that I didn't have 2 wiki pages, right? So maybe to have one release page, which is actually what we want to point people at when it comes to OWASP, right? We don't want to get into that whole mess, right? Anybody has more?
No, he's just saying 3 minutes.
Before you step around.
So let's beer wrap this thing up.
Yep.
Cool, guys. Thank you very much.